All right, what is up, everybody? Good morning. Matt Modi here with another NBA live stream of Fast Break Bets. As you all probably know by now, I'm not going to go into the whole spiel that I've been doing live at this time, 11 a.m. every Wednesday and Friday, going through the entire betting slate, giving out one pick for each game. Today, we have an 11-game slate, which means we have 11 picks. So all that good stuff, make sure to subscribe, turn notifications on, share with your friends, and most importantly, and this is the most important, I'm saying that for a reason, get those questions, comments, whatever it may be in the chat. I see we have a couple here already. I do have a screen up here with the chat. So if you see me looking over, that's why. Artemis, that's what I'm calling you. I'm not sure how to pronounce whatever's before the underscore. Good to see you. Miki, good to see you as well. I can only assume that's a shout out to Meek Mill, which is a shout out to me as a Philly sports fan. As for me, if you want to find me, you can at my Twitter handle, basically everywhere, Jedi Modi. Real quick to do a recap from last show. Was awesome. Great night from the last show. I guess morning, since we're doing these in the mornings now. Continuing our hot streak on these live streams. We had another 11 game slate, on Wednesday. Went 7-4 on those picks, up 2.85 units. That brings our total profit on 5 NBA live streams to be up 7.7 units with the 32-27 record. We've been profitable 4 out of 5 live streams where we've been profitable in 3 straight. I don't believe in jinxes. I'm not jinxing it. Let's keep it going today with our first pick in the Bucks versus Hornets game. We're just taking the over. Straight up taking the over 237.5. It's best offered at Bet Rivers at -113. You can also get it at -115 at ESPN Bet. So between those two, hopefully you're able to lock this one in. So looking at this matchup between the Bucks and the Hornets, two teams that are both in the top 10 in terms of pace of play. That's always juicy when it comes to points being scored. Both of these teams are also bad on defense, which generally bad defense also leads to points being scored. Looking at net rating, the Hornets have the worst, the worst defense in the entire NBA. The Bucks have the 7th worst defense in the entire NBA. The Hornets allow the 4th most points per game. The Bucks allow the 7th most points per game. Obviously, 237.5 is a very high number, so the books are taking into account everything that I just mentioned. But I'm expecting this one to be a track meet with a ton of points scored. I also price shopped to find the best price here. That's how I go through the main lines. I just compare odds. You can do that directly on the Betting Pros app, which is great. Most books have this either at 238 or 238.5. Now, obviously, the higher the numbers go, the less meaningful, the less valuable the gaps between them becomes. But in a main line on a big market like the NBA, it's generally profitable if you can line shop and find differences like that. It's one of the reasons why I love the app, along with many other reasons, which we'll get into a little bit later. But that's our first pick. And I'm just going in these games in just the order of which they're being played. So I'm not giving any favorites to any specific game. That's our first one, the over in the Bucks versus Hornets. Next up, Wizards and Knicks. This is going to be another mainline play that I like. The Knicks -6.5, -115 odds. This one is at BetMGM. The Wizards are terrible. They are the 2nd worst team in the NBA, according to net rating. They also have the 2nd worst point differential in the NBA, both in total points and in points per game. So no matter how you look at it, the Wizards are very much not good. They're currently sitting with a 2-9 record. Of their 9 losses, 8 of which have been by more than 6.5 points, 7 or more points in 8 of their 9 losses. And if you're going to say, well, what happened in that one loss? They blew a massive lead against the Raptors. They also didn't score in the final about 6 minutes of that game. The Wizards, total joke. The Knicks, despite being good basically every other year, are at least competent with a very good defense and some players who can score. This was another play that I found by price shopping. Most books, every other book had this either at 7 or 7.5 in favor of the Knicks. So the 6.5 number, albeit a little bit juiced, is still pretty good. Something that I found on the Betting Pros app as well. And then speaking of the app, I did want to talk about that real quick because I have mentioned how I found literally both my first two picks on the app. There's also a bunch of player props that I found on the app as well that I will get into. The app you can find at bettingpros.com/apps. The cheat sheet, which I haven't mentioned yet, is probably my favorite part of using the app. You can find recommended player props based on Betting Pros projections. And not only that, but they list it by percent of positive expected value. So you can see exactly how EV the play is. I also like the fact that they give the cover percentage, because there's an example, I'll talk about it when we get there, but I have a player prop that Betting Pros has the win percentage above 50% that we are getting at plus money, which is awesome. You can also tail all of my picks on the app. So if you miss these live streams and you just want to quickly log in the app and check, you can at bettingpros.com/Modi. I also recommend while you're there, starting a free trial of the premium offering. It has everything that I've been mentioning that is very, very helpful. And you can sync your sports books through the app. So you don't need to go in and log everything manually. You can just easily track all your picks directly on the BetSync part of the app. It's a really, really good app. I can't recommend it enough. Definitely recommend checking it out. Joe, appreciate you for commenting. I appreciate you for tuning in. My hard work gets rewarded when people like you are in the chat and commenting. So we're 2 picks down. Let's get to our third one. This is a player prop. Trae Young over in the Sixers-Hawks game. Sorry, in the 76ers versus Hawks game. Trae Young over 9.5 assists. This is at -108 odds at Caesars. It's been a quiet but good start to the year for Trae Young and the Hawks. Trae is averaging just below 11 assists per game. Now, looking at his recent stats, I will admit that he got 17 last game, which obviously is great. That does make me a little bit nervous to, in the next game, once again, back the over. Those of you who know me know I actually like doing the opposite of that, fading recent trends. But in this case, it's because of the matchup. Still like riding with Trae Young and his assists. The Sixers, even during their hot start, now they've lost 2 in a row. I'm not necessarily worried about that. Regardless, the way they play defense, they consistently get killed by this very specific type of point guard like a Trae Young, someone who can penetrate into the defense, get Capella for a lob, kick it out to a shooter. Those type of for lack of a better word, very good passing point guards kill the Sixers. And the recent example of this is Tyrese Halliburton. So the Pacers and the Sixers played in 2 games in a row. In those 2 games, Tyrese Halliburton had a combined 32 assists to 0 turnovers. He had 17 assists one game. The next game, he had 15. Halliburton is an awesome passer, but so is Trae Young. And I do think that the situations are comparable. On a related note, the Hawks and Sixers have not played yet this year. They played 4 times last year. Trae Young had 10 or more assists in 3 of those 4 games. He averaged 12 assists in those 4 games. In one of them, he had 20. Trae consistently kills the Sixers. I'll never get over, as a Sixers fan, the playoff loss between the Hawks and the Sixers. So I do like Trae Young to have a good game here. Miki looking at Trae Young over PRA. I think that's fine as well. Obviously, we're just tracking the assists, but I think if you want to look at his PRA, I don't hate that as well. That is our third pick. Next up in the Pistons versus Cavaliers, we're taking Ausar Thompson under 25.5 points, rebounds, assists, -113 odds at FanDuel. This was something that I found using the Betting Pros app, using their projections and the cheat sheet and all that stuff. It's a 39.2% positive expected value play via Betting. They project him to have 21.9 of this stat. And they also list this as a 73.9% cover chance, which means 73.9% chance that he goes under the number that we are taking. Now, looking at the player, I actually do like Thompson quite a bit. I think he's good. I think he's got a good feel for the game. He's not a great shooter, and I don't love him particularly in this matchup. For starters, this does fit my strategy of fading recent events. He's gone over this number in 3 straight games, including 34 in the last game. And again, those of you who know me know I actually like doing the opposite of that because I think things generally tend to swing the opposite. So whatever recently has happened, the opposite tends to even out over time, essentially. And this is another matchup play. The Cavs are finally healthy, at least in their front court, right? With Mobley, with Allen. Their defense is starting to look like the defense that they had last year when they were literally the number one defense in the NBA, according to net rating. With Jared Allen and Evan Mobley, they're just tough to deal with inside. And then for the Pistons, this is partly due to roster construction, partly due to injuries. They lack shooting basically across their entire roster, including their starting lineup. Their best shooter in their starting lineup is Isaiah Stewart, which means for a player like Thompson, who is very good, who has a good feel for the game, but he can't quite shoot, he needs spacing. So it leads to a lot of clunky offense, a crowded paint, not a lot of space for him to do anything. He's coming off of a 21-point game against the Hawks. I think he struggles in this one, so I like fading that recent event again against Jared Allen and Evan Mobley. I'm just not expecting him to have a good game, even though I do like the player. So that is another play for us. That one, again, I found using the player prop. We have a stretch of a decent amount of player props in a row, including this next one, Kings versus Spurs. De'Aaron Fox, 30-plus points, plus 110 odds at FanDuel. So Betting Pros projects him at 29, so we're going a little bit higher in to get plus money, right? It's a value play. Despite missing a little over a week or so, Fox has been good for the Kings. He's played in 5 games this year. He's gone over 30 points twice. In 2 of the games that he did not go over 30, he scored 28. Then he had one bad game, 18 points. That happens. Overall, he's been good. And the matchup is another reason why this is the play here, right? The Spurs, they're great with Wemby, just visually, but their defense is a total abomination. Worse than the Hornets, worse than the Wizards. They allow 124.1 points per game is what they allow. That is the most points per game allowed in the entire NBA. Net rating has them as the second worst defense. So according to net rating, not worse than the Hornets, according to points per game allowed. Yes, worse than the Hornets. I think the reason why that they allow more points despite having technically a better net rating is they play super fast. They play at the 5th fastest pace in the NBA. And the Kings, if you look at just their entire season, you would say, well, they don't play at a fast pace. They play at a below average pace. Well, that's because De'Aaron Fox has missed time. With De'Aaron Fox, they run a lot. If you just isolate with De'Aaron Fox on the court, the pace that the Kings play at would be the second fastest pace in the NBA when he's on the court. So I do expect a lot of possessions in this one. Obviously, that leads to points. The risk potential here is always going to be because of a blowout if he just doesn't play enough minutes to get to 30 points because the Spurs can't keep up. But in this game, De'Aaron Fox should be able to get essentially whatever he wants in a game that should be a track meet. Maybe he gets to 30, even with the blowout. So for 30-plus points at plus 110 odds, I do like it. But before we get into our next one, I do want to talk about the Betting Pros Discord. I'm in the Discord. It's great. I post my picks in the Discord as well. So if you're looking to up your game in sports betting, I would recommend looking no further than the sports betting Discord at Betting Pros. You can find it, bettingpros.com/chat. In the Discord, it's completely free. And that I think is the most important thing because everybody, get your money. But I do think that it's nice to have something like this, something that you can use for sports betting that is completely free. In the Discord, team of expert handicappers giving out, again, free picks. And we're in the golden era of sports betting just in terms of time of year. NFL, NBA, NHL, college football, college basketball. We even got soccer if you're into that. Player props, live betting, futures, all that stuff is in the Discord. So I recommend getting in on the action. You can connect with like-minded individuals such as yourselves. I'm assuming those of you in the chat watching me, commenting, are sports betting enthusiasts. You can connect with people like that in the chat. And what I think is probably the most valuable is you can talk to the pros just to get their strategy, right? Teach a man the fish, not give him the fish. You could talk to betting experts, like I said, to get their strategy to help enhance your own sports betting game as well. So join us in the Discord today. Take your sports betting experience to the next level. We're 5 picks down. We got 6 to go. Next up in the Celtics versus Raptors game, Pascal Siakam over 4.5 assists, plus 114 odds at FanDuel. This is another EV play that I found on Betting Pros, 15.9% positive expected value. And this is the play that I was talking about where it's Betting Pros gives him a win percentage of 54.2%, meaning They give him just below 55% chance of going over 4.5 assists. We're getting this for plus money. So if you even win half your plays at plus money, you are profitable. And this is projected to hit above a 50% rate. That was the example that I was talking about earlier. Another play that I found using the cheat sheet. It's awesome. I love getting this one at plus money. The Celtics defense is very good. I'm not going to say anything against that, but Siakam is an underrated playmaker who's been pretty good this year at getting assists, at playmaking. It's an underappreciated part of his game, if you ask me. On the year, he's cleared 4.5 assists, so he's had 5 or more in 7 of 11 games. Now, one of those games he did miss was against the Celtics, but that was a game in which the Raptors got absolutely torched. And just looking at his minutes played, it was his fewest minutes played in a game so far this season. He played fewer than 30 minutes. He's only done that in one other game. And this one, again, was the lowest, the fewest. I'm not going to tell you that the Raptors are going to win, but I do think it'll be more competitive than the absolute shellacking that we saw last time. And with the plus EV play on it, with it being a win percentage above 50% at a plus money play, I do like it a lot. I see Pascal pick as a 4-star, try to stick with 4.5 and above. I get that. I totally get that. I do think that this one is pretty good. It makes sense, but I totally understand your logic there. Next up in the Magic versus Bulls, we're taking DeMar DeRozan under 5.5 assists, -115 at BetMGM. Another positive EV play via Betting Pros, 28.2% EV with a projection of 4.6 assists with a 68.6% chance of going under. The cover percentage has his chance of going under. Now, this fits one of my favorite betting strategies, which just means fading basically anything involved with the Bulls. Since they made the trades for Vooch, for Lonzo, and signed Caruso, they doubled down, tripled down on mediocrity. I love fading the Bulls. We did that last time with Levine and it cashed. This time we're fading DeMar, specifically his assists. He's gone under this number in 7 of 11 games this year. It's projected to go well below, according to Betting Pros, as I mentioned. Both of these teams play at a below average pace. The Bulls play at the 4th slowest, and the Magic, just looking at total pace, play at the 18th ranked pace. So obviously not as slow as the Bulls, still below average. The Magic defense is also very good, pretty much across the board. If you just look at all their different stats, 3rd best defense according to net rating. They give up the 6th fewest points per game. They allow the 2nd fewest assists per game. Now, these two teams did just play on Wednesday, and DeMar missed that game. So you don't have any data from there. But I do like fading the Bulls basically in every matchup. I like fading DeMar specifically in this one. So under 5.5 assists is pretty good. And as I mentioned, I found this one using Betting Pros. And I do want to talk about a giveaway that we are doing for a 1 year of the premium subscription. So if you want a chance to win that premium 1-year subscription to Betting Pros, all you need to do is comment on this video, and all you need to do is subscribe to the Betting Pros YouTube channel. Hopefully you are already subscribed. If not, definitely do that. And then to enter into a 1-year premium subscription, a chance to win a 1-year premium subscription, you just got to comment. Can be nice things, can be mean things. We would prefer it to be nice, of course. The premium subscription, it's your place to bet smart, not bet hard. Everybody knows it's all about working smarter, not working harder. Apply that to your sports betting game with the premium subscription to Betting Pros. In terms of announcing a winner, it's going to be done right here on this channel. So I'd recommend turning those notifications on so you're alerted when new episodes drop. Hopefully you win the prize. I saw someone in the chat yesterday saying they hope they win so they can quit their job. I would not recommend that. I would recommend still entering a chance because it's a very helpful app that I've talked about a lot, hopefully in a way that's made sense to you. So make sure, again, turn notifications on, comment, subscribe, come in and claim your prize. So we're 7 picks down, 4 to go. Work smart. Great comment from Swift. I totally agree. And Miki is 160. Yeah. DeRozan under 5.5 assists, 161 on Pinnacle. That's definitely helpful for us considering we got it at -115. Next pick in the Nuggets versus Pelicans game, we're taking Nikola Jokic under 55.5 points, rebounds, assists, -115 odds at PointsBet. Jokic is pretty good. but we are fading him in this matchup. It's another positive EV play from Betting Pros, 29.8% EV, projected to have 51.2 in this stat, adding all of the points, rebounds, assists together with a cover percentage of 69. That's very nice, 0.4%. I know it's scary to fade Jokic. He's awesome, the best player in the NBA, probably going to win the MVP in 3 or 4 years. But when you look at his stats, he's only gone over this number in 4 games this year, 2 of which he had 56, and then two of which he barely went over. One of those he had 56. The other one he had 57. So hovering right around this number. Obviously, Jokic is awesome, and I'm not going to say a single thing against that, but it's just such a high number. 55.5 is so much. He could have 30 points with 10 rebounds and 10 assists and go under. Just to give context about how much he has to get, just accumulate stats in order to get this one. And I do think in general, there is some value in fading superstars like this because people inherently are just going to want to blindly bet his overs, especially for a stat like points, rebounds, assists, because he accumulates a ton of them. And this isn't me saying that he's going to go under like every single time, that you could just blindly bet superstar unders. You obviously need to look into the specific instance, but I do think that more often than not, you can find value there, especially during the regular season when they're not putting in as full effort like they do in the playoffs. So I do like this one for a just below 30% EV play. Next up, third to final pick in the Lakers versus Blazers, Austin Reaves, 15 plus points. Plus 130 odds at FanDuel. So looking at Austin Reaves, he got paid a ton of money in the offseason. He looked pretty good in USA play over the summer as well, but he had a pretty rough start to the year. He hasn't really started to pick it up until recently. That also coincides with him coming off of the bench. Whether there is a connection there, that doesn't really matter to us as long as he's playing well. I will admit his last game, his most recent one, was not great. He only scored 9 points in that one. But prior to that, he had scored 15 plus points in 6 of 7 games. And if you just look at his entire year, the first 4 games of the year, he did not get to 15 points in the first 4 games. But since then, he's done it in 6 of 8. And that does include the most recent game that I talked about in which he didn't play that well. So with the Lakers offense, the lack of spacing, they need someone like Reaves to get going just as a scorer and as a shooter. So it does bode well for them that he is playing well. In this game specifically, both LeBron and Anthony Davis are questionable to play. So if one or both of them end up not playing, it's just going to help our situation here with him scoring points because his usage rate is going to increase. LeBron's missed 1 game this year that Reaves has played in, and Reaves did score over 15 in that one. Dating back to last year, Reaves has scored 15 or more points in 7 of 10 games that LeBron has missed. Now, it's a smaller sample size. If you isolate it with both LeBron and Anthony Davis missing, it only happened 4 times that Reaves played in last year. He went over 15 in 2 of those 4 games, and they're both the 2 most recent ones. Again, these were last year, so not most recent is all relative term. But in those 2 games, he scored 19, he scored 24. So we need to see what the injury situation is. Even if both play, I like it. If one misses, especially LeBron, then I like it even more. As our third to last pick, 2 more. Second to last one in the Suns versus Jazz game. Finally breaking the player prop streak. I'm just taking the Jazz money line. I'm taking them straight up. Plus 198 odds at FanDuel. Why not? Let's get a little weird with this one. I don't think I've had a straight up money line play in these live streams yet. So those of you who know me know I am not a believer in this Suns team. For this specific matchup, it's looking like Beal is going to play, that Booker is going to play. Booker will play, and that Beal will not. And I know that the Suns are coming off of an impressive blowout against the Timberwolves. Timberwolves were one of the darlings of the NBA. They had come into the game winning 7 straight. But that does mean that they're due for some regression just from winning 7 straight. And they were on the second night of a back-to-back, and they had just won 2 straight games against the Warriors. And I'm just not ready to buy the Suns yet. And I think they're primed for an upset playing against the Jazz in Utah. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that Utah is good. They really have not been good this year, but there is a big reason why I like backing them in this specific matchup. They're at home. When the Jazz are at home, they perform significantly better. So on the year, the Jazz are 4-7, and I think have the 4th worst net rating in the NBA. But if you split it versus home and away, at home, they're 3-2 with the 12th best home net rating. So just looking at teams at home that generally play better at home, they're the 12th best, plus 4.8 net rating at home. On the road, they are 1-5 with a minus 14.1 net rating, which is disgusting. It's a massive gap between the Jazz at home and away. Now, the Suns are an average team away, so it's not necessarily fading the Suns on the road. It's more so backing the Jazz at home. And for plus 198, I do think that's pretty good value for an unreliable Suns team to lose. So I like it. Again, it's a value play here. Was positive EV. Second to last pick now, our final one, 11th and final pick of the evening, Rockets versus Clippers. We're taking Alperen Sengun, 20-plus points, plus 180 odds at FanDuel. The Rockets in general have won 6 straight after starting 0-3. And what's impressive with their start is how much they're playing differently from this year versus last year. And that includes Sengun, who's been awesome. Last year was a train wreck. And you could go to your local YMCA gym and find a pickup game that was a more cohesive basketball unit playing together than the Rockets, what they resembled last year. Sengun was not in a position to succeed because he's not just a get buckets type of player. He plays very well within the framework of the offense, which is what has happened this year. Now, if you just look at raw stats, 20-plus points, he's only hit that in 3 of 9 games this year, but in 3 of those 6 games that he missed, he had exactly 19, so right around that number. His main line, if you just want to look at that and be a little bit safer, is 17.5. That's a number that he's gone over in 6 of 9 games. That's very nice. He's also playing well recently. He scored 20-plus points in 2 games in a row. Again, that does make me a little bit nervous, but it's also a matchup play against the Clippers. Their center rotation missing Miles Plumlee. They're just so banged up and they just don't have the big bodies. They opt to play very, very small. Their lineup includes Paul George and Kawhi, great defenders, wing defenders. Russ and Harden, bad defenders, also guards. And then Terrence Mann or PJ Tucker, both of which are too small to play full-time center minutes. So what that means is the Clippers get killed by the opposing team's centers. 7 of the last 9 centers that have played against the Clippers have gone over their point total over under. Now, some of them are centers that don't have a ton of offensive workload, that their over under was like, let's say 6.5, and they scored 8 points, but still scoring more points than projected. That also includes Jokic, who just hung 32 on the Clippers. Now, I'm not saying that Sengun is Jokic or that it's close, but we also only need him to get to 20 versus 32. So I think he gets there. I like it for plus 180 odds. Cronette, hopefully I'm pronouncing your name right, Swift. I appreciate you guys for chiming in, Swift. I thank you for liking the Sengun play. Hopefully this one cashes. Cronette, you're welcome for all of the picks. But that's it. 11 picks down for an 11-game betting slate for tonight. Hopefully we can continue the hot streak that we are on. 3 straight profitable days, up 2.85 last time. Let's keep it going. Remember to check out the app at bettingpros.com/apps. Remember to check out the Discord at bettingpros.com/chat. And then, of course, the 1-year premium subscription giveaway. Subscribe to the Betting Pros YouTube channel, comment on this video, and you will be entered. Appreciate everybody for watching, and have a good weekend.